Hello, thank you for having me. This is hopefully going to be a great session for you guys. I am really excited to share my thoughts on this. The session today is going to be about sustainable growth in Pakistan and why customer retention is critical for sustainable growth. So, first, we have the definition of what customer retention is. So, customer retention is the practice of keeping your customers engaged, satisfied, and loyal over time. You want your customers to not be one time users, you want them to continue using your brand and keep a relationship with your brand. In Pakistan, we have challenges around that. So, problem is that since we are a developing country, we have different issues that come with having a business or a startup in Pakistan. So economic instability hai, there's inflation, currency devaluation, we have petrol challenges जिसकी वजह से हमारी prices change होती रहती हैं, cost management change होती रहती हैं, financial planning में problems आती हैं because a lot of us are like funded. सो जो आप डॉलर के अगेंस्ट प्राइसिंग अपनी करते हैं प्लानिंग करते हैं वो हट जाती है बिकॉज इट्स नॉट डेली एप्लीकेबल एनीमोर वी हैव पॉलिटिकल अनसर्टेनिटी सो होता ये है कि एनी टाइम वी स्टार्ट हैविंग लाइक डिफरेंट थिंग्स गवर्नमेंट चेंज हो जाती है रेगुलेशंस चेंज हो जाते हैं we don't have stable net connections political uncertainty की वजह से जब भी कोई मसला आता है हम लोग नेट कनेक्शन बंद कर देते हैं प्रॉब्लम्स आना शुरू हो जाती हैं वी हैव वेरी लिमिटेड डिजिटल पेनिट्रेशन और दैट मीन्स इज के हमारे जो सारे यूजर्स हैं वो अर्बन एरियाज में बैठे हैं अ लॉट ऑफ पीपल डोंट हैव एक्सेस टू बैंक्स दे डोंट हैव एक्सेस टू स्मार्टफोन्स दे डोंट हैव एक्सेस टू 5G उन कस्टमर्स को कैसे हिट किया जाए जब वो आपके उस चैनल्स पे है ही नहीं जिस पर आप हिट करना चाह रहे हैं वी हैव अ डाइवर्स कल्चरल लैंडस्केप जो चीज़ मे बी पठान्स को नहीं समझ आती वो सिंधीज को समझ आती है जो सिंधीज को नहीं समझ आती वो पठानों को नहीं समझ आती so we have in Pakistan so many different kinds of cultures that it becomes challenging to hit all of the customers that we want to with the same kind of things so how do we do that so सबसे हमारे लिए इम्पोर्टेंट होता है कि हम देखें कि हमारे कस्टमर सबसे बेस्ट कौन से वाले कस्टमर हैं हाउ डू वी फाइंड आउट व्हाट कस्टमर इज योर बेस्ट कस्टमर so we do that through customer lifetime value customer lifetime value is the net profit that a customer gives you through the entirety of their relationship with you तो अगर आपके पास एक कस्टमर है जो एक दफा आके आपके पास ट्रांजैक्शन करता है चाहे उसकी जितनी भी बड़ी ट्रांजैक्शन हो इज गोइंग टू बी स्मॉल इन कंपैरिजन टू अ कस्टमर जो 3 दफा आके 4 दफा आके आपके साथ रिलेशनशिप बिल्ड करता है आपके साथ जर्नी पूरी अपनी कंप्लीट करता है so problem with customer lifetime value is कि it's not important कि आपकी सिंगल ट्रांजैक्शन क्या हो बट इट्स मोर इम्पोर्टेंट कि आपकी कस्टमर के साथ रिलेशनशिप क्या है आपकी कस्टमर के साथ रिलेशनशिप होगी तो आपके पास जो है वो it's important to have a relationship with your customers because उस relationship के basis पे customers can give you different things like they can give you brand advocacy, they can be your okay. So why is retention so important? Acquiring a new customer costs you 5 times more than retaining an existing customer. Why is that? Because cost efficiency. Retaining a customer पे आपकी ज़्यादा कम स्पेंडिंग होती है और कस्टमर एक्विजिशन पे आपकी ज़्यादा स्पेंडिंग होती है जब आप कस्टमर को एक्वायर करते हैं यू हैव टू गो आउट एंड अट्रैक्ट दैट कस्टमर सो यू हैव टू हैव दैट एंटायर जर्नी यू हैव टू एक्सप्लेन टू देम कि आपका बिजनेस है क्या आप क्या पुश करना चाह रहे हैं स्पेशली फॉर अ प्रोडक्ट लाइक उड़ान तो आपके पास फिनटेक है जिसमें आपने पैसे डाल रहे हैं अगर हम एक दफ़ा एड रन करते हैं a customer is not going to be converted on the first time that we are running an ad. We have to educate them what our product is. We have to develop trust. We have to bring them into the net. And फिर कहीं जाके जो है वो हमारा कस्टमर बनता है मे बी चाहे वो रिटेन हो ना हो राइट सो अगर आप देखें प्रॉफिटेबिलिटी के उसमें सो 5% इंक्रीज इन कस्टमर रिटेंशन कैन रिजल्ट इन अ 25 to 95% इंक्रीज इन प्रॉफिट सो इट्स वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट कि आप कस्टमर्स को रिटेन करें कस्टमर रिटेंशन के पास जो है ना आपके पास आता है कंसिस्टेंट रेवेन्यू स्ट्रीम आता है, आपकी रेवेन्यू की फ्लक्चुएशंस कम होती हैं, आप इंक्रीज कर सकते हैं अपनी प्रिडिक्टेबिलिटी। सो व्हाट दैट मींस इज के आपको पता है ये कस्टमर मुड़ के आएगा, ये आपका लॉयल कस्टमर है। यू कैन देन put them in your forecast model and say कि okay this customer I know is coming back, ये कस्टमर मुझे इतनी लाइफ टाइम वैल्यू देगा। Loyal customers are also more likely to refer you to friends, families. तो आपके marketing के expenses reduce होते हैं। अगर if I go to a customer and attempt to convert them just through digital, I have to go through a long process. But अगर एक customer है and वो अपने किसी friends and family वाले को refer कर रहा है, they are going to explain the entire process. They are going to be your advocates. They are going to build trust in your brand. So retention के लिए you know there are like different challenges that you can do. You cannot have one consuming strategy for all customers. So you have to segment your customers. So चार किस्म की जो ना मैंने इसमें लिखे हैं कि आप customer segmentation डाल सकते हैं. You can have personalization. You can target just your high value customers. You can predict customers who are going to churn, especially the customers that you know are higher value customers. And you can target them through different kinds of promotions and different kinds of, let's say, upscales, right? So if I talk about personalization, right, for Udan specifically अगर मैं बात करूँ, तो हम कस्टमर को टारगेट करें कि भाई आपने किस चीज के लिए सेव करना है। Let's say they are saving to renovate their house, तो हम उनको जो है अपसेल कर सकते हैं कि ओके अब आपने अपनी कमेटी डाल दी है to renovate your house. Maybe there are different, let's say, appliances that you want to buy. Maybe now it's time for you to buy a vehicle for your family. High value customers का, so especially for fintechs, अगर आप कस्टमर्स के पास चाह रहे हैं कि कस्टमर्स आपके पास आए और आपके पास स्पेंड करें, दे मस्ट हैव द मनी टू स्पेंड। अगर आपकी fintech की app is targeting customers who don't have money to spend, then this money that you are spending down the drain, चाहे वो जितने कम customer retention पे आपका spend हो। Churn prediction would be के कस्टमर का बिहेवियर एनालाइज करें। So for instance, अगेन अगर उड़ान का देखा जाए, एक कस्टमर है जो अपनी पूरी कमेटी की पूरी प्रोसेस कंप्लीट कर रहा है, स्लोली स्लोली ओवर टाइम वो देर से देर अपनी मंथली पेमेंट्स करना चाहता है, करता रहता है। So we know कि highly likely कि this person is going to churn and is going to go away. तो होता ही है नॉर्मली कि जब आपके पास रिटेन्ड कस्टमर्स होते हैं, इंस्टेड ऑफ स्पेंडिंग ऑन कस्टमर एक्विजिशन, आप उसका स्मॉल परसेंटेज उनको प्रमोशंस में देते हैं। लेट्स से जैसे डिस्काउंट आप दे दिया कस्टमर को। व्हाई आर लॉयल कस्टमर्स इंपॉर्टेंट? सो रिपीट बिजनेस, जैसे मैंने कहा, ब्रांड को वो लोग ट्रस्ट करते हैं, उनके पॉजिटिव एक्सपीरियंसेस हुए हैं इन द पास्ट, उनके लिए जो है इजी है हमें उनको ट्रस्ट करना कि अगर हमको पैसे दे रहे हैं, वी नो देयर ओवर डिफॉल्ट एंड देयर गो दे। सो एक प्रिडिक्टेबिलिटी हमारी साइड से भी आ जाती है, एक प्रिडिक्टेबिलिटी उनकी साइड से भी आ जाती है। इंक्रीज लाइफ टाइम वैल्यू, एक कस्टमर पहली कमेटी लेट से वो 5,000 की डालता है, फिर दे स्टार्ट ट्रस्टिंग उड़ान, दे नेक्स्ट कमेटी वो 10,000 की डालता है, फिर वो 20,000 की डालता है। इवन इफ अगर वो नेक्स्ट कमेटी 5,000 की भी डालता है, ओवरऑल उसने अपनी कस्टमर ने अपनी लाइफ टाइम वैल्यू इंक्रीज कर दी, हमें पता है वो फ्रीक्वेंटली बाय करेगा, वापस आएगा, लॉयल कस्टमर का। Loyal customers are also brand advocates. वो business recommend करते हैं to their friends, to their families. Positive recommendations from satisfied users, especially for fintechs, creates a trust system. तो customers को उतना problem नहीं होता कि वो आके आपके पास जो है वो selling करें, आपसे चीजें। Customers जो आपके loyal होते हैं, they are also more likely to give you feedback and improvement. So अगर there is a problem, there is a issue, new customer है वो वहीं छोड़ के चला जाएगा, loyal customers जो है वो आके complain करेंगे। Maybe they have access to account managers or they have access to complaint portals, लेकिन वो डट के रहेंगे, complain करेंगे, they'll make sure कि जो issue है, problem है, वो ठीक हो जाएगी। Loyal customers are also resilient to market fluctuations. जैसे कि political हालात खराब हो जाते हैं, customers are scared कि बैंक पैसे लेके भाग जाएगा, fintech पैसे लेके भाग जाएगी। कस्टमर जो लॉयल है, जो आपके ऑफिस आया हुआ है, जो आपके लोगों के साथ इंटरेक्ट किया हुआ है उसने, वो कस्टमर is not going to think कि okay ये मेरे पैसे लेके भाग गया, they're going to stick around, they're going to be like okay let's see where this goes. Also lowered marketing cost. So अगर आप new customers acquire करने में let's say 700 rupees spend कर रहे हैं, आपको customer retain करने में उससे 5 times less जो है ना आपकी cost होगी. तो आपको heavy advertisement पे spend करने की जरूरत नहीं है. आपको जो है उनको डिस्काउंट भी जो है वो certain percentage पे ही दे सकते हैं, certain percentage पे दे सकते हैं. आपके पास कॉम्पिटेटिव एडवांटेज आता है जब आपके पास आपका लॉयल कस्टमर है, बिकॉज पाकिस्तान इज वेरी स्ट्रॉन्ग बिलीवर इन के फॉर इंस्टेंस अगर आप कोई कस्टमर है जो टपाल ले रहा है वो सारी जिंदगी टपाल लेता रहेगा. कोई कस्टमर है जो सुप्रीम ले रहा है वो सारी जिंदगी सुप्रीम लेगा. दे वोंट मूव टू अ न्यू ब्रांड बिकॉज पाकिस्तानी मार्केट हैज अ लॉट ऑफ कस्टमर लॉयल्टी. सो होता यह है कि पाकिस्तानी कस्टमर्स आर वेरी इनटू प्राइस क्या होनी चाहिए. अगर आप दूध ले रहे हैं 10 रुपए, आपने देखा इम्तियाज से प्राइस कम है और 10 रुपए जिले से किसी और जगह मेट्रो पे ज्यादा है, they'll drive all the way to Imtiaz just to get that product because they'll care about the price. They won't care कि उनको पेट्रोल में कितना खर्चा हो रहा है. They want quality and reliability. Customers जो एक certain service level के आदी हो जाते हैं, they want that service level continued. अगर कस्टमर को वो सर्विस लेवल नहीं मिलता, they are much more likely to stop buying from you and go away. Cultural sensitivity. So we've all gone through this process. एक ज़माने में everyone was doing Black Friday sales. Then there was a lot of backlash, and Black Friday converted to White Friday, Blessed Friday. Same thing with Valentine's Day. We can't really push Valentine's Day in Pakistani markets because people don't believe in that. हमारे यहाँ different किस्म के होते हैं. We have single days, we have 11-11. So अगर आप एग्जिस्टिंग कस्टमर को सेल कर रहे हैं, देयर इज अ 60-70% चांस कि आप वो खरीद लेगा आपकी प्रोडक्ट. बट अगर आप न्यू कस्टमर को सेल कर रहे हैं तो 5% to 20% चांस है कि वो आपकी प्रोडक्ट खरीदेगा, which is a huge gap if you think about it. Questions? Thank you.
So if anyone has questions, please add them to the chat, and then I'll pick them and say them out. Kanza, I had one question about the very last thing you were talking about, that there's a lot of customer loyalty in Pakistan, right? And you gave the Tapal example, or let's call it whatever, like tea example. But I was wondering, how much have you seen this sort of loyalty translate from, yes, in CPG goods, I agree. From when I lived there, you can see that. But in technology products, does that translate? Meaning, are people the exact same with like, oh, I started using this app and so I will not check out competitors and I really like this app and I'm going to stay with it?
I think like अगर wallets की बात की जाए ना, Easy Paisa was an early entry into the market. A lot of customers have stuck around despite all of Easy Paisa's issues. जब Jazz Cash आया था, some people shipped it, but not all of them. Even सादा पे जो है was more based like Gen Z millennials आए थे जिनको Easy Paisa की सर्विस से उतना like trust नहीं था, उतना factor नहीं था. तो you're absolutely right कि FMCG products में ज़्यादा है. Technology products में everyone is a lot more focused on service quality and ease of use than they are on the other things.
Okay. So there's a couple of questions. I'm going to pick the second one first. So do foreign startup brands have an advantage versus local startup brands in your opinion?
I think a lot of the times what we think is like a foreign brand turns out to be Pakistani. Like recently, I've been using a service a lot, which is called Unilever. So email marketing के लिए इस्तेमाल होता है, and I was really impressed with their service, and I was like, okay, बहुत अच्छी service है. And then I found out it's Pakistani, and immediately जो है ना मेरे दिमाग में थोड़ा सा आया कि okay, is it going to have the same service standard? So it's more to do with how we as Pakistanis don't really trust अपनी चीजें. So so I think foreign brands do have an advantage in terms of that, we also don't have a lot of like reliability. A lot of us use Indian customer service, customer data platforms, customer engagement platforms. We don't really have competitions in our own market of the same standard.
Okay. There's another question that is asking about how do you talk a little bit more about metrics, but the specific question is um, the calculation of customer lifetime value, how you go about that. And so maybe use Oraan's example if you can about how you figure out LTV. And then what are the other metrics that are very close to LTV that you look at the same time?
Customer lifetime value ki calculation is such a concept. It's a very difficult concept because everyone has a different definition of customer lifetime value. I'll give you an example of like हम उड़ान में कैसे calculate करते हैं, which is something that we are still working on. So it's like a work in progress thing. But हम जो है वो निकालते हैं customer की average user की revenue. Then we divided that by the user retention rate. So churn rate निकाला हमने कि cohort में कितने customer आए. We one से minus किया because it's a percentage. We got के customer की lifetime span क्या थी. उसको जब हमने multiply किया तो हमारे पास customer lifetime value आया. Other things that we can look at in terms of retention are retention rate सबसे ज़्यादा. NPS is a very good metric that I always look at when I'm looking at customer retention क्योंकि आपको एक अंदाजा होता है कि कितने कस्टमर जो हैं वो आपके बारे में कंप्लेन करने को तैयार हैं. I think it's a very underrated thing. We don't really look at how many people are complaining. अगर आपके पास कस्टमर्स कंप्लेन करने आ रहे हैं दैट्स एक्चुअली अ गुड थिंग. अगर कस्टमर आपके ब्रांड से थक गए हैं, यू नो कि आपके पास कस्टमर भी नहीं आ रहे और कंप्लेन करने वाले भी नहीं आ रहे, यू लॉस्ट द फाइट. इसका मतलब है कि आपकी प्रोडक्ट की ट्रैक्शन वो नहीं आ रही जो आप चाह रहे हैं.
I have a follow-up on that. You also mentioned like churn modeling a little bit, right? Predicting churn. How sophisticated is Oraan in predicting churn? Are you doing, like my more specific question is, are you just looking at very basic engagement sort of numbers and deciding, okay, this person is in the bucket of about to churn or not about to churn or is retained? Or do you do more sophisticated things with like a data science model to predict churn?
So we don't really have a data science model. Our model is a little manual, but since we are very in tune with what our customers want, we know कि अगर customer का let's say behavior change हुआ है of interaction with our app या with the payment cycles, we know कि potential है कि ये customer जो है default करके हमारे पास से चला जाएगा. So we are kind of unique in that sense because subscription model है essentially हमारा. So any customer who signs up, they sign up for either 5 months or they sign up for 10 months. अगर 5 months के बाद वो रहता है, so he's likely to repeat again. He or she is likely to repeat again. अगर 5 months की कमेटी में one में उसको प्रॉब्लम हो रही है पेमेंट करने में, so it's a customer who's probably not going to be retained. And उसमें फिर वही customer segmentation आ जाती है कि a lot of our customers are housewives, so they don't really have sources of income. And our society is not that open about khawaateen having like sources of income. So होता ही है कि अगर उनके हस्बैंड से मे बी लड़ाई हुई है, they don't have the standing कि वो अपने हस्बैंड से कहें कि भाई मेरे पास पैसे नहीं है, you need to pay my committee amount. तो उसमें ड्रॉपेज आ जाता है हमारे पास.
That makes sense. Okay. We have another question going back to the Tapal example. So I thought this was a great question, but Ali Mohammed Beg asks, do people who always buy Tapal buy it because they are loyal to the company or the brand, or because they don't want to spend the mental energy to consider other brands and figure out what else is good out there?
That is a really great question. I think बहुत सारी चीज़ों पर डिपेंड करता है. So for instance, टपाल जो people खरीदते हैं, they really like the taste of tapal. Like my family is very, very strongly supreme. They do occasionally move to yellow label, but it's only very occasionally, and 2-3 दिन में जो है they're like कि नहीं वो जायका नहीं आ रहा. Oil का भी मतलब my family is very into buying dalda. Everyone who buys dalda will buy dalda. It doesn't matter कि बाकी सब जो है वो ज्यादा healthy brands हैं या ज्यादा सस्ते brands हैं. Concept है कि माँ का प्यार is in dalda या tapal is what makes your family tick. तो इसकी वजह से जो ना हमारे पास जो है इश्यूज आ जाते हैं. इट्स मोर टू डू विद नॉस्टैल्जिया देन इट इज टू डू विद लॉयल्टी आई गेस.
Okay. That makes sense. We have an Oraan specific question next. And this is, how does customer lifetime value differ across different genders and age brackets for Oraan, if you can share? Although this question is from someone who is from Oraan, so if you can't share, they can ask you personally.
um I think so. We've had a recently great experience of that. We've been like doing customer research. तो अभी फिलहाल तो हमारे पास बहुत सारे सवालों के जवाब हैं. So our data indicates that men are actually much more likely to default and go away than women are. So women have a very strong sense of what is right, what is wrong. A lot of the men that come to us come thinking that we are a loan app. So उनको जो है ना they want the first month, they want an immediate payout, and then we have trouble recovering things from them. That's why we have a very strong verification team, we have a very strong booking team, we have a very strong KYC team. तो अगर like customer segmentation में देखा जाए तो men are more likely to default, business owners are more likely to default. We haven't been able to get the right mix between how do we define someone as business owner and how do we define someone as, let's say, a freelancer. तो उसमें जो है ना the challenge ये आता है कि they don't really have the kind of ready cash that they would need to pay on time every month. So then they end up defaulting.
Okay, that makes sense. So far we have one other question. I just skipped it. I'm going back to it. Do you think brand name, this is kind of a repeat question, but let me know if you have any other thoughts. Do you think brand name impacts loyalness of customers? Like if a big player enters the market, is it more likely that customers, even loyal ones, will move to that brand because it's a bigger brand name, they know it, they trust it more?
That is a great question, Baji. So I think a brand name does affect loyalty of customers. If I'm going back again to like Tapal and Dalda, agar Tapal comes up with a new chai, they're more likely that people usko try out karenge. They started those gold tea bags. A lot of the people started using those gold tea bags just maybe for the loyalty, the novelty of the thing. So it does matter a lot कि big brands अगर चीजें लेके आ रहे हैं तो उनका जो ना automatically trust factor improve हो जाता है, increase हो जाता है.
Okay, that makes sense. When someone starts a startup, right? So let's say Oraan's founder started a couple of years ago. Does having a personal brand help in getting customers, or getting local customers is how they worded it?
I think it does matter a lot. So I've been working in startups for a while, and a founder who has a high profile is likely to get more traction. But the great thing that I've found working with Halima is that her personal brand is focused less on like LinkedIn and more on customers. So like office में किसी की भी complaint आएगी, they'll just be directly कि हलीमा से बात करें. Halima is going to fix our problem. So her personal brand is in the sense कि it's an approachability that customers feel they have with her. अगर मैं अपनी previous companies की बात करूँ तो like when I was in EAO, Adam has a name in the industry. He has a standing. People naturally flock to him, listen to his ideas, even if he is not working on a personal brand. People follow him, so it does make a lot of difference.
Okay, that makes sense. I think I'll add one thing to that, Kanza, if you don't mind, is that in Pakistan, personal brands matter less now, but the more startups that show up, the more and more your personal brand will matter. Because, like for example, in the US, because there are hundreds of startups and thousands of startups starting every week, um, like standing out from the crowd is much more important in the early days to get traction. However you can do it and however cheaply you can do it, right? You don't want to pay for ads and pay for media and PR. You want to get it for free. And so if you have a personal brand, you are more likely to get it for free. In Pakistan, I'd say it's less important, but always helpful.
Yeah.
Okay, we have a bunch more questions. So at Oraan, do you monitor the average revenue per user along with the LTV? Is there any benefit to using ARPU, average revenue per user, for decision making over LTV, specifically for a subscription service?
Can I pass on this question? I think ये थोड़ा सा ज़्यादा.
Yes, you can.
Okay.
That's okay. I know this is less of a a product or finance person would answer this question. Generally, a marketing person won't look into it that much. So I understand. Asha, you can also ask this question once you're added to the group. Many people have experience with these metrics and you should be able to get an answer. Okay, next question. How do you judge value of a customer? A customer coming back after a longer time with a bigger basket size is more valuable, or someone coming frequently with smaller basket sizes? So either use an Oraan example or just go to the e-commerce world, the way this is phrased. But do you think of people who are staying with you longer with smaller baskets versus just buying in bulk and doing large transactions?
That's a great question. I think it really depends very much on के आपकी targets क्या है. So for instance, airlift, a lot of customers were placing smaller orders and उनके पास regular में 2 orders 3 orders आ रहे थे. But उनकी target जो थी वो थी कि उन्होंने अपना basket size increase करना है. तो उन्होंने जो है वो phones और different electronics लाना शुरू कर दिए just to increase their basket size. I think judging के किस कौन सा वाला customer is more valuable depends very much on कि आपका model किस किस्म का है.
Okay.
Do you want me to?
No, I'm just reading which one's better to ask now, but how does the customer lifetime value change for products with different length of buying / purchase cycle? So for example, how would it change for Kareem versus Oraan versus Netflix?
I think सब्सक्रिप्शन मॉडल जैसे नेटफ्लिक्स का है. सो फॉर इंस्टेंस अगर मैं नेटफ्लिक्स की ले रही हूँ मैं पूरे साल की लूंगी. इट डिपेंड्स वेरी मच के उसकी कैलकुलेशन कैसे हो रही है. एम आई कैलकुलेटिंग इट बेस्ड ऑन के मेरा सब्सक्रिप्शन का साइज क्या है. एम आई कैलकुलेटिंग इट बेस्ड ऑन के रैंडम पीरियड क्या है. या एम आई कैलकुलेटिंग इट बेस्ड ऑन के कस्टमर ने स्टार्ट कब किया था अपना कोहर्ट, जैसे हम उड़ान में करते हैं. तो व्हाट वी डू इन उड़ान इज के वी सी के कस्टमर ने सबसे पहली कमेटी किस महीने में डाली थी, किस साल में डाली थी, एंड उसके बेसिस पे वी जज के ओके दिस पर्सन प्रोबेबली केम फ्रॉम हियर, ये इसकी डेमोग्राफिक्स है, इतनी लंबी इसने की है, और उसके बेसिस पे हम प्रिडिक्ट करते हैं कि उसको जो है ना कितना लास्ट करेगा, उसकी लाइक वैल्यू कितनी होगी. for something like ये वो, it was a lot different क्योंकि we were looking at के हम instead of के छोटे छोटे बहुत सारे orders डालें और हमारा delivery की fees increase करे, it would be better कि customer जो है वो एक साथ एक बड़ा order डाले या एक ही अपने कार्ट में बहुत सारी चीजें डाले, so वहां पर upscale जो है ना वो became more important.
Got it. This new question is, think of someone working in your position, right? So someone's working in the marketing team. And the question is, do Pakistani companies or brands understand these concepts of customer loyalty and why retention is important, why lifetime value is important? And his real question is, I mean, what is it like convincing them that these things matter, and how can one be better or can make a better case to their companies that we should be focusing on retention and
I
measuring
think like in Pakistani companies, we have a lot of focus on customer acquisition. Then we have on customer loyalty, retention, or lifetime value. Everyone wants a new customer to come in, and they don't really like concentrating on customer loyalty and retention. So you have to sit down and you have to explain to them कि भाई आप नया customer acquire करते हैं तो उसकी क्या cost होती है, उसको कितने hoops के through jump करना पड़ता है. We are seeing a very definite shift because a lot of companies have started introducing rewards programs and loyalty programs, but mindset जो है वो अभी भी very much के नए customer कहाँ से आएंगे, नए customer कैसे आएंगे, which is why like the digital spend becomes such a huge deal. हम अगर आप overall देखें based on like my career अगर मैं देखूं तो I've always spent more on acquisition than I have on retention. Even अगर आप Facebook ads, Google ads वगैरह consider करें, आप अगर customer retention run करें through Facebook, it's very hard trying to convince your boss to do that. They will always say कि नहीं आप इसको जो है वो WhatsApp पे मैसेज रन कर दें, SMS पे मैसेज रन कर दें. They don't understand कि वो same value उस WhatsApp मैसेज की नहीं आती जो उसको ad के थ्रू नजर आता है on Facebook. तो startups में फिर भी people do understand the customer lifetime value and slowly shift आ रहा है, but it's very hard. It's about the numbers. You have to show them the numbers कि आपकी acquisition में ये cost आ रही है और आपकी retention में ये cost आ रही है. Anyone जिसको cost saving नजर आती है, it's more likely to convert them.
Okay, thank you. There's a few other questions that people sent me beforehand, before the session started. So there's a set of questions around growth strategy, and I'm not going to ask you all of the specific questions, but I think if you could give an example of like, how do you think about growth strategy and crafting it, and what are the elements of a good growth strategy that you must hit internally, right, to be effective?
So in terms of like मैं कैसे सोचती हूँ is कि finance has set a revenue target. I know कि revenue target achieve करने के लिए इतने आपको customer चाहिए, इतना percentage आपको revenue चाहिए, इतना percentage आपको नहीं चाहिए, and then I work backwards. तो for instance अगर मुझे ad से इतने downloads आ रहे हैं तो impressions और मेरे पास downloads का क्या ratio है, उसके basis पे how much money do I ask for, how much money do I spend. अगर मैंने लिखा हुआ है कि मेरा एवरेज टिकट साइज लेट्स से 10,000 होगा एंड माय टिकट साइज इज हिटिंग 6,000, तो उसमें चैलेंज क्या आ रहा है, उसमें मसला क्या आ रहा है, trying to figure that out. So दो चीजें करते हैं, we look at our analytics, we look at like we have mixed panel at Udan, we look at that and we talk to customers. जिस भी स्पेस में कोई इशू आ रहा है जिस पे कस्टमर्स ड्रॉप ऑफ हो रहे हैं, आप कस्टमर से बात करके यू ट्राई टू अंडरस्टैंड के मसला क्या आ रहा है, कस्टमर के पेन पॉइंट्स कैसे रिजॉल्व किए जा सकते हैं. But I think like a lot of growth, especially in like Pakistan, is focused more on acquisition then it's on fixing customer problems. But the great thing about Udaan is that we are very into के customers के साथ interaction होना चाहिए. So everyone is encouraged कि customers के साथ बात करें. We are very in tuned with the customers. So anytime कोई problem होती है, first instinct is कि we have a bunch of customers, we call and we say कि this is where you dropped off. Why did you drop off here? And how can we solve your problem? And since they are mostly housewives, they don't really have a nice way of saying is that they have the time to cater to us, and since हम उनको इतनी personalized service दे रहे हैं, they're more than happy to help us out and give us feedback. तो उसके basis पे जो है ना we calculate के okay यहाँ पर अगर हम conversion rate improve करेंगे तो हमारा यहाँ bottom of the funnel पे affect होगा, यहाँ पर ये issue आ रहा है, customers को ये journey नहीं समझ आ रही, इस journey को अगर निकाल देंगे तो customers को क्या फायदा होगा. We've had a lot of challenges with, let's say, trust. नए कस्टमर जो आते हैं उनमें वो ट्रस्ट फैक्टर नहीं होता, तो उनको कैसे ट्रस्ट की तरफ लेके आए, तो वो उनको रिव्यूज दिखाते हैं, उनको रेटिंग्स वगैरह दिखाते हैं ताकि हम उनको इम्प्रूव कर सकें उनकी कस्टमर जर्नी.
Okay, that makes sense. There was one more question, a couple more questions, but so one question I liked was about experimentation on different strategies within growth and retention, and how to know which bet is worth taking and which is not. So I think just looking at that question deeper, would love for you to talk about when there have been cases that you are trying to experiment with a bunch of different things, and how do you determine which one to really lean in on versus forget the others?
So growth at Oraan is very much experiment based. So अगर हमने customer से let's say KYC करनी है, what is the best channel to do that? As an experiment that we have recently done. तो 3 हमने जो है ना वो निकालते चैनल निकाले थे कि अगर हम push notification से करें, customer को call करें, customer को WhatsApp message करें. So what we did is we divided the customers into 4 segments, एक control group रखा, and we send them different messages and then we measure the output. As someone who is very into the digital solutions, I wanted that push notifications should win out because एक तो WhatsApp की cost आती है, call करने की cost आती है, then you have to factor all those things in. And it makes more sense कि आपके customer is used to getting information from your app because then they look at the app as the primary channel and not on the other solution. So हमने run किया for 2 weeks and disappointingly enough for me, customers को WhatsApp ज़्यादा पसंद आया, उसमें से conversion हमारी ज़्यादा आ रही थी. तो फिर भी बाकी चैनल्स को हमने कट डाउन किया और हमने व्हाट्सएप पे जो है वो कस्टमर्स की ये जर्नी करना शुरू की. Then we decided कि okay, should we do KYC after 1 day or 2 day? Does that make more sense? Then we did an experiment on that. So Oraan is very into the concept of कि experimentation होनी चाहिए. We literally have 4 or 5 experiments running in a single week where we try to figure out कि customer के लिए सबसे best हमारी जो है ना चीज़ क्या हो सकती है. How can we improve things for customers?
Okay, that makes sense. We have 2 more questions so far. So, and more are coming in. Does Oraan work with international clients? Like, do you have international customers? And if yes, how does that experience differ from, what local customers see?
We have a lot of international customers. So basic model जो है वो committee का है. If Khawateen are based in Saudi and they are placing a committee for their mother who lives in Pakistan, उनकी मनी ट्रांसफर जो है वो सऊदी से आ रहा होगा, उनके OTP जो है वो WhatsApp के थ्रू जा रहे होंगे इंस्टेड ऑफ थ्रू फोन नंबर्स. बट ओवरऑल आई डोंट थिंक इतना हमें फर्क पड़ा है कि इंटरनेशनल क्लाइंट और लोकल क्लाइंट में, बिकॉज इट्स committee is a system that's been around for generations, and what we've done is we've digitalized the system, but basics जो है ना उसके वही सेम है कि आप 5 महीने की कमेटी डाल रहे हैं, आपके किस महीने में आएंगे और वो आपके अकाउंट में ट्रांसफर हो जाएंगे और आपने अपनी कमेटी पे करनी. So for us, we don't have a lot of difference between local and international clients.
Got it. There's a question about so one clarification on this last question. He did not mean customers as in your users. He meant businesses and brands. I'm not sure if Oraan works with businesses and brands, but if you do,
We do have a B2B2C wing, but we don't work with international clients. We mostly work with Pakistan-based companies. We've given financial literacy sessions at Uber, at Baikia, at Kareem, Images. We also run corporate committees with different companies, but we just do it locally. We don't do it internationally.
okay, thank you. There's one question about premium models. I don't know if you will want to answer this or not, but I'll ask anyway, because it's an active person in the chat. For subscriptions with a freemium model, what would be good strategies to convert free users to paid ones? Are there any good case studies to refer to besides Spotify?
Um, I think Spotify is pretty much the only one जिसने successfully किया है, but a lot of companies are doing it. And मैंने थोड़ी देर पहले जो है वो Unilever का example लिया. I think उनका काफी अच्छा है. So it started off as an email creation studio. वो आप फ्री में ईमेल क्रिएट करके एक्सपोर्ट करके मेल चिप पे अपलोड कर सकते थे. देन व्हाट दे डिड इज के हर ईमेल के नीचे देयर वाज यूनिलेयर का बैनर, सो पीपल स्टार्टेड यूजिंग दैट. देन उन्होंने थीम्स अपनी डिवाइड कर ली फ्रॉम फ्री टू प्रो थीम्स. फिर उन्होंने उसके अंदर इंटीग्रेट किया अपना स्टूडियो के अंदर कि आप डायरेक्टली क्लिक करके मेल चिप पे सेंड कर सकते हैं अपनी ईमेल्स. तो आई थिंक उनका एज अ लोकल एग्जांपल वेरी गुड मॉडल किया है.
Yeah, and I think Ashir, freemium models are, you can think of them as you're getting a lot of leads and you get a lot more information on them before converting them to your paid users, right? Think of a landing page, you don't get any information, you just give them information, they convert. This is, you can learn a lot more about them, what they want. One suggestion I have for everyone who is looking at pricing or subscription models is check out the content from Paddle. I think the company, the website is paddle.com probably, but they have a lot of content on this about how to optimize your pricing pages, how to think about freemium models, all of that. So highly recommend that. There's one more question. What are the pricing strategies you use in Oraan for people unfamiliar with Oraan?
So पहले जो था the way Udaan was operating was के we had no pricing strategies. But अभी recently because of the economic shift we've had to shift to charging customers a certain percentage if they want an early payout. So what happens is कि अगर आप कहते हैं कि आपने कमेटी डाली है and आपको first month में चाहिए, essentially Udaan is taking a chance on you. You could just take the money and run away. So there's a certain percentage that we charge customers on the first 4 slots in a 10-month committee and first 3 slots in a 5-month committee.
Okay. I think that's all the questions, Kanza. So I think it's
Thank you
good
for
to
having
end
me.
it there. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying thank you for having me.
And then I have one closing note for the 10 or 12 people who are still in the chat. If you are in Karachi, we have a startup employees mixer next week on Wednesday. To sign up, go to founderpakistan.com/events. We'll also be launching by tomorrow 3 or 4 more sessions, a fireside chat with Mustafa, who is a startup advisor and big in the startup ecosystem, how to break into data. There's a few other marketing ones coming up. So keep an eye out on founderpakistan.com/events. And if you're in Karachi, sign up for the in-person meetup. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.